Moving on to the second set on Outlier. It's going to be free or pretty versus Perfective. Or Perfect Man Clone. Don't be putting perfect in your name, man. You're no perfect man. Except, down at the 5 o'clock position in orange, it's pretty. Looking pretty exasperated, actually, for some reason. You just started, man. Don't be looking so down in the dumps. But up at the 12 o'clock position in brown is Perfective. Blowing on his screen for God knows what reason. Maybe Ho just sprayed a bunch of saliva on it. Gross. Anyway. Protoss. Protoss. The big story from this season, absolutely the Protoss domination. And really, it's unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened in a professional Brood War. To have this level of domination from Protoss players. I mean, Protoss are the favored race this season. They always win. It's pretty nuts. And as I said, it's never really happened, so I'm not quite sure how to feel about it. On one hand, I like a lot of Protoss players, so I'm like, that's great. My favorite players are winning, and Samsung Khan is doing well because they're all Protoss players. So that's good. But another part of me feels a bit skeptical, because it's always been my feeling that if you have too many Protoss players winning at one time, your maps are imbalanced. Because it should never be easy to win as a Protoss player. It's a very unforgiving race. You have to do everything perfectly. So that's why there's only been like a few good Protoss at a time, historically speaking. You'll only have, like in the last OSL, only had 2 Protoss players, Stork and Jangbi, for most of the tournament. And that led a lot of people to say, well, it's imbalanced because there's only a couple of them. But Jangbi ended up winning the OSL. It has nothing to do with imbalance. It's just the race, the nature of the race itself. I mean, all the units cost so much, and you have to micro everything perfectly. Pylon placed down at the prospective new base for Perfective, so Free is feeling frisky today. He's getting frisky. Anyway, Cannon coming up with the front. But yeah, I don't think there should be that many Protoss players dominating at one time. It's a hard race to master. And once players do master it is when it becomes probably the strongest race of the 3, is when you do everything immaculately. And that's why I think there are so many fans of Protoss, because it's sort of like an underdog, but really I do think is the strongest race when its potential is completely harnessed that way. But that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people think that Terran is the strongest race because of Flash and Fantasy. But other than Flash and Fantasy, not too many other Terran players really ripping it up as of late. Yeah, there's always a handful, but anyway. The second base finally coming up for Perfective. Some good delaying tactics from Free, though. Keeping that from coming up as long as Protossly possible. Alright. But the third base did come up in the meantime. I see that down at the 8 o'clock position, 8 o'clock natural. Coming up, this is a 3-player map, Outlier. It's supposedly the predecessor to Outsider, I think. Although I don't really get the connection. I guess there are some connections because you have the temples that you have to break and it gives you a direct line to your opponent's base. But it wasn't quite like that on Outsider. It was a little bit different with the mineral patches acting as walls, so to speak. So it's a bit easier to get to your opponent's base from by just going the long way around and breaking down the temples, stuff like that. But anyways, looks like third base up and saturated. Second base should be coming up fairly soon. Overlord hovering over the Nexus just to make it more annoying to Free. Sorry. Alright. And the Cybernetics Core coming up. There's the Overlord looking around for any other additional buildings. And let's see if that probe can get in and stay in long enough to see the next buildings coming up. There's a Zealot. Zealot going back to the base, curiously enough. Everyone dressed in Santa gear, of course. I do believe that this was played on Christmas Eve, though, not Christmas itself. So it's a tad dated, but it's not that dated. Not dated enough for me to feel uneasy about casting it. There's Reach. Go Reach. The Reach. Anyway, Stargate. Coming up at the natural expansion for free. Citadel of Adrian at the same time. Staying in there, not very long. The speed, Zergling speed was up, making short work of that scout. Second base starting to be saturated a bit. I want to see where Perfective branches off. Everyone loves Reach today, it seems. Because he's Reach. I mean, how could you not love Reach? I sound like Cholera. Everyone says I'm like the quiet version of Cholera, so I should keep the Reach fanboyism to a minimum, I guess. Okay, second base. Still only one cannon at the front, which Perfective could definitely use in his advantage. The Zergling run by or something. There are one probe and two zealots blocking the small area between the gateway and the side of that ridge. Just to the two zealots right now. So the Zergling's trying to do a run by Perfective. He's getting inside of the main. He's running straight to the main. He got 3 Zerglings through. So he might be able to pick off a probe or 2, which would definitely be worth it. But no, he's looking around here. He's getting the scout, I think. He's getting the scout on everything. And these 2 additional gateways coming up. And the spinning cybernetics score, getting a bit of additional information there before going for these probes. Getting close here, being fended off by that one single zealot. It looks like Free is just devoting one zealot to chasing these pesky Zerglings around. He wants to keep the rest of the front just in case there is a Hydra break or an attempt at a Hydra break, which I don't think is coming his way just yet. But the Zerglings, oh, some nice micro from Free, actually, keeping majority of his probes alive. I don't think he's lost one yet, actually. A cannon coming up inside of the main. Cannon coming up inside that main with this, which is curious here. I don't think he's really using the cannon for the Zerglings. I think he might be anticipating Mutalisk or something. I can't imagine him putting down a cannon, wasting that much on a cannon. Oh man, some mutas are on the way. Since Free was going around, maybe he spotted that the mutas were coming his way, so he's putting down the cannon inside of the main. The Zealots aren't going to help much against these Mutalisks anyway, so oh man, this might be a bit tense. Hopefully Free has a cannon going at his natural expansion as well, because that's really where he needs it. Yeah, he has one cannon there, just the one, at the front. Was he going to make his front vulnerable to Zergling run-bys, but now Free knows exactly what's going on. He's going to run back to his base, run back to the cannon, and the Corsairs. The Corsairs grouping up here just from that one Stargate. And I think that the +1 air upgrade was spinning at the cybernetic score instead of the Dragoon range. Yeah, that's definitely the case, and that's going to help Free out a lot, but still he doesn't have that +1 upgrade yet for this Corsair, so he's got to hang back for the moment. He's doing a bit of harassment with these Zealots, just trying to run to that third base with the Zealots. Might have been scouted there. Yeah, I think he was scouted by the edge of the Scourge view field, so these Zealots probably not going to get too much done. The Zealots split up, and I think that Free might run some to the natural. No, he's running them all home. Actually, trying to get out of here with the Corsair. The Corsair's in danger. Oh, one Corsair almost went down, but it is in red. That's going to make it much easier for Perfective to take it down later with a single Scourge. And, okay, Zealots can't do anything. The Corsairs couldn't do anything because they don't have the +1 air yet. So Free is stuck for the moment. He can try to go out here with his Corsairs, which I think he's doing. He's trying to fend off these mutas with Corsairs, but he's very afraid of the Scourge. He is very antsy about the Scourge being in the air, I'm sure, which is why he's just falling back to his natural expansion constantly after getting only a couple of hits on those mutas. Some good static defense going for Perfective, and Perfective is working on his 4th base now. And Free will have to work on his 3rd soon, but it will be pretty difficult to take that 3rd. Oh, the scout being sniped. A probe going down pretty easily there. The Corsair is unprotected, but there are quite a bit of them going now. So Free, if he gets 1 or 2 more Corsairs in that clump, I'd say he's going to have the air superiority, especially with that +1, which I think is done now. Yeah, it's done at that cybernetic score. The +1 air, and a couple of High Templar at the front getting up energy for some storms. Since no doubt Perfective is going to switch into that ground army soon. He already has up the Hydralisk Den,